Hi everyone, I'm Temi.
And I'm Tobi.
And this is
Totally on brand.
Another week, another episode. How you
look
feeling?
Cute today.
You look cute today. You look tech girly.
I know.
The waistcoat it's giving.
Because of the topic, I was giving you high-key silicone, babe.
I love it. I love it for you.
I really actually match. I'm not even going to lie to you. I really, really channeled my silicone.
I love it with the black t-shirt, girl. Mm-hmm. You got it. You got it. You got it. Okay, so how's your week been?
Do you know what? I like that you ask me this question all the time, but high-key, a lot of people don't ask. Mm-hmm. So it's like, do I really tell you how it is, or do I do it's been great, thank you. Which one do you want to hear, Temi?
Well, for the sake of the podcast, because we don't have 45 minutes to talk about our weeks, I kind of, the thing is, I would always know that there's going to be a baseline, and that baseline is that you are expanding. So you're dealing with...
Girl, carpenters, electricians, welders, tailors.
Oh, no, girl.
Temi,
not tailors
all
too.
The problems with the country.
Artisans,
I'm dealing with them
and
right now. Yes.
So I already know that one is there. So really what I'm saying is, despite that, how are you feeling?
Fair enough. I feel good.
Okay.
It is exciting to be growing. Mm-hmm. It is scary. Mm-hmm. My tummy is in knots all the time. Mm-hmm. But they always say if you're not scared, then maybe it's not great.
It will pay off. I think that's that the nerves is you want to get it right, and we know you will now. It's you. So
how are you, my love?
I'm good. I got back from Ibadan yesterday. I went to Ibadan yesterday. I went with Smed and we went to visit small businesses and our office there as well. So that was exciting.
When are you coming to visit my own business?
You're a VVIP client or business. So when we're coming, don't worry, we'll come with the full ways.
Sis, I like it. What do you guys do when you visit businesses? I'm curious. That sounds interesting.
Yeah, so we go around the country and we visit businesses in different sectors. For example, yesterday was all about agriculture. We really just find out what they need.
Amazing.
What do you need? Do you need new equipment? Do you need some capacity building? Should we put together a program for you? That kind of thing. See where they were from the last time we visited. Now it's been a while, so we can actually do follow-up visits.
I like that.
That's it.
Do you guys by any chance also link small businesses together?
Yes, we do. We have
this
clusters.
Agriculture you just said, I actually am transitioning from procuring from B2B to actually, I coined this thing B2F. Like I want to actually come directly from farmers as much as possible to potentially be an option to reduce my costs because I'm really struggling with margins. With
no, that we do.
Devaluation.
So we have cooperatives, we have clusters, and obviously we can link those people to the end user.
I like that.
So like if there's a particular crop or a particular, just we can look within the ecosystem.
I'll come for sure. Yes. Or at least get contacts.
Yes, absolutely.
I wonder if you guys will ever do like a marketplace, a Smeden marketplace where we can all like come together. I can search for things.
It's in the works.
You're gonna hire me, Abby.
Absolutely.
Look at how my idea is aligning with you people's mandates. I'm joking.
Okay. Today's topic. Today's topic is something I love to talk about, which is tech, as you know. But we're going a little bit deeper today. We're talking about disruptive tech. It's fascinating. And I think one of the things that can be daunting, even though I love tech, is that it moves at lightning speed. Like every day there's a new technology, AI, VR, this
Honestly,
one.
I find that tech is something... Do you know how it feels being a business owner and you're doing like bits? You're really trying to like push your brand, build a brand, and I still find that tech very, very daunting. It feels like a black hole to me. I really don't. I feel like I understand it and we use it, but there's still a big gap in my mind and in my general operations of how to genuinely use it perfectly for myself. Yeah. Between legal, tech, digital, those are the things I run away from the most. And I wonder if other people are like me.
I mean, I completely understand. And when you said legal, I got goosebumps. But there are definitely certain aspects of tech that I'm still very new to. Yeah. Like, I'm interested in them, but I haven't adopted them. I'm a little bit afraid to. But, we said that we want to talk to people. We want to bring people onto the podcast that can give us a bit of insight. And we have a guest today, guys. And Tobi, tell us a little bit about him.
I'm excited for this person. So I've secretly stalked him quite a lot. As you all know, I stalk people's careers and journeys. I really like people's journeys. And his one fascinates me so much. I find that he's lived many lives for someone who is not 40 yet, especially career wise or business wise. Like some of the changes and moves he's made, I would genuinely have a lot of anxiety going through that. I feel like I need a decade for each of those. The kind of
He's
changes
one of
he has
those.
made.
Okay.
Yeah. So when I first came in contact with him, or when I first got to know him, he was a medical or studying to be a medical doctor. So he was in medical school. And then next thing I know, he was studying economics as well. Then after that, he went to Harvard to get his MBA. Then I know, or I heard at the time, he had a good job in the finance industry. I think one of the big four institutions in the UK at the time. Then I think he was headhunted and recruited with a multinational in Nigeria that actually has, I'll let him introduce it, but it's a company that has a lot of arm in like different industries. They're in finance, they're in real estate, they're in tech, they're in oil and gas. So, and power as well. And then he's doing that. And then I saw him raising for a seed round for his new tech venture. And the funny thing with him is he has done everything very well, or he puts his all into everything.
He's excellent.
And I'm quite fascinated with how he has done different things in a very short career space of time, excellently well, and found himself in the tech space, now being a tech entrepreneur. How do you go from medicine to finance to tech?
I know.
So yeah, I'm really, really, really fascinated by him.
Well, I'm so excited to hear what he's going to have to say about tech. And so today on the podcast, we have, drum roll.
Come on.
Mr. Frank Williams, who is the co-founder and CEO of Lingawa, which is a brand that I love.
Formerly Top Set.
And that rebranding was something that gave me life because I thought it was so engaging.
It was, I felt they were so brave, but clear.
Very clear.
And intentional.
Yeah.
And everything made for a great rebrand.
Yeah. And for the product to immediately capture its audience. Yes. And by audience, I'm counting myself. They obviously in the right direction.
I also connected with them better in the rebrand than before.
Even
like now, the message is clearer.
Even the name is a little bit clearer for what they do. So, but
and
I'll let
the brand colors too.
I know.
Interesting.
I will let Frank introduce himself. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Thank you, Frank.
Thank you for having me. I'm such a big fan of you both.
Frank. Welcome.
And fun fact, guys, I love branding, and obviously I'm going to let Frank talk about it, but I think what really, really convinced me that he's an excellent person was I think the business was called something else and it's now called Lingawa, and the rebrand was so amazing.
Yeah, it was called Top Set.
And then it became Lingawa, and for me I was just like, but it's so amazing how this now even speaks to me more.
I agree.
It was more relatable. It was
I hope
beautiful.
You talk a bit about it.
Yes,
and the rebranding was very fascinating.
I loved how you did it as well. You appealed to our innate nationalism. We all now want to buy into it. Anyway, please let me not get ahead of myself. So, thank you for coming. Please tell us a little bit about yourself and about Lingawa.
Yeah, sure. I'm Frank Akinwade Williams, co-founder and CEO of Lingawa. At Lingawa, we essentially help kids and adults to learn African languages with pride, with confidence. We do this through a network of incredible trained native-speaking tutors and an engaging, fun, AI-powered learning app. The company was founded 2.5 years ago. And as you said, my background is broad, to say the least.
Can we touch on that a little bit? How did you go from medicine to a tech entrepreneur?
Yeah, so I think
through that journey, you're not even 40 yet.
Very true. Yeah, still got a few years left. So I think firstly, we in this industry, whether it's as founders or coming from my previous background in finance and investing, kind of feel often that we have to be perfect and appear perfect. But what I personally find most interesting in people's stories are like the failures and like the things that didn't go quite well.
I like that.
Me too.
And at the so to give you guys a background, as a kid growing up, Nigerian kid in the UK, my parents gave me 3 options. I was either going to be a lawyer, a doctor, or a disgrace.
Oh, I did not expect that third option, but it
so-
makes so much sense.
does.
Yeah, right. And so off to medical school I went. Luckily enough, I got the grades and got in. But I realized pretty early on it wasn't for me. Ended up sticking around, but ultimately my heart wasn't in it. My work ethic wasn't great. My humility level was at an all-time low, to be honest, because I was, like a cool medic on campus and
Yeah.
everything. And it was a few years in when, I was asked to leave after not performing it was like one particular essay on like cardiovascular surgery or something. And as you guys can imagine, that was my lowest point by far, right? Like my mum cried for what it's worth.
Wow.
And I really felt like I'd let my entire family down. I felt like I let myself down. Luckily, though, my parents are just phenomenal. I did have a great support system. And really luckily, I had a couple of great mentors who happened to be from the world of finance. And they kind of guided me through that journey of kind of thinking about, like as a kid, what were some of the things that I was personally interested in and passionate about. Turned out this whole world of business has always been interesting to me, right? As a kid, I was kind of that boy who would like buy computer parts and assemble computers and sell them, or buy SIM cards, like O2, like I ordered O2 SIM cards and sell them as well. And
the government never looked for you,
why would the
wondering
government
why
look for
you're
me?
buying so many SIM cards.
It wasn't, to be clear, that wasn't illegal at all. But it was like ways to make money.
Yeah,
right?
it
And
makes
that I really enjoyed. And so but yeah, so they helped me to kind of transition from medical school into studying economics and finance, where you're right, like very luckily I graduated top of my class, and so my mum forgave me a little bit at that point. Then got my first full-time job as an investment banker with Tobi's husband, FYI, Cavadel, who was actually, funny enough, really, really helpful in the interview process.
I know he's always said how you guys like met
Bonded.
when you were
Yeah.
interviewing.
No, it was incredible. So started my career in investment banking at a bank called Morgan Stanley in London. And I mean, I didn't grow up around investment bankers, right? Like it was an entirely new industry to me. And I still remember the day that I got to this place in London called Canary Wharf. And if you guys have been there, right? It's like literally like 50 to 100-story glass towering building. And it's so daunting and everything. But I remember like coming up the underground escalator and just thinking, like I would love to work here.
Okay.
And then eventually, by God's grace, through the support system and help and quite a lot of hard work, eventually got there, right? So I started my career at Morgan Stanley, where I would say in hindsight, I learned how to analyze businesses and I would say like succinctly present my analytical findings.
I like
right?
that.
And also got comfortable, like gradually becoming more and more comfortable. And this was actually like an important journey throughout my career of feeling like I deserved a seat at the table. Right? Especially with that whole backdrop of like not succeeding so publicly in something initially and now kind of working my way back, right? So so started my career in investment banking. After a couple of years, realized that, like this, I'm learning a lot, really interesting work, but I don't feel the impact of what I'm doing. And I'm making a lot of really wealthy European people wealthier. And that doesn't quite do it for me. So around that time, a headhunter reached out about this investment firm that had invested in incredible companies across Nigeria, like Interswitch. And later on, we went on to do a couple of deals buying Owando's downstream business and midstream oil and gas business and some other stuff too. And I was just like, it's incredible. It's like a Wakanda. You have these incredible, smart, passionate minds in London, Nairobi, and Lagos. And so I jumped at that opportunity, spent 2 years with them initially in London, then moved to Nigeria just before business school, realized I had a couple of gaps in my skill set, applied to a few business schools, ended up very, very luckily getting into Harvard Business School. So my mum forgave me a little bit more at this stage.
Really making
helpful.
amends along the way. Like I love
I
this.
like the journey.
And long story short, coming out of business school, well, long story slightly shorter, coming out of business school, realized, I actually want to do my own thing. Right, I actually want to build something. There's a lot of value in investing, and they provide it's like the capital, the support, the mentorship, and everything else that a good investor provides. But at the same time, I really felt like in this market, the real gap is in like great operational leaders to actually like build do the hard, painful work, take the risk, and actually build a business.
Yeah.
At the time, however, my wife, your dear friend, Simi Williams, had another great idea, or rather a great idea called, which is now Beyond Fitness. So it's like a boutique fitness studio in VI. And the idea of us both both starting an entrepreneurial
Building
journey at the same time wasn't very appealing, right? There's only so many times you can drink Gary in a day. So ultimately, she went off to build what is now an incredible brand, and I went back into the investing world for a few years until we got to the right moment,
Timeline,
exactly, for me to break out and launch what is now Lingawa.
Wow.
That's
a whole topic in itself.
Honestly.
Gosh. Thank you
Thank
for
you for
sharing
that.
that.
Yes,
That was really, really cool. Thank you. Okay, now we'll come to the topic at hand, because if you leave me, I'm going to dissect Frank's journey this
honestly,
entire day.
like,
If you leave me, that's exciting.
as he was talking, I was thinking about people's journeys and,
Yes.
just how, because I was thinking to myself, truly, I studied human genetics at the BSc level. Oh,
Sorry?
Oh, yes, my dears.
Sorry,
I'm so
Temi,
sorry.
stop.
We've segued.
Wait.
Yeah, no.
You mean we're sitting on this couch every week? You studied what?
Human genetics.
That's
Huh?
crazy.
Yeah, human genetics.
Kini,
Well, the study of genes in humans. I wanted to.
So tell me, where am I originally from?
I have to take your blood and stuff. Like, I wanted to cure sickle cell. So that was my thing. And then I quickly found out that I am more in love with marketing and strategy. So I went on to do a master's in international business. But yes, my parents did not love that leap, because they were bragging to all their friends. My daughter, human genetics. Everybody's like, what was that? And then I was like,
I wanted to be a pediatrician. I actually
wow.
got in. Then I changed my mind literally on the day to submit. And I quickly went on other prospectors and started flipping through. Just, when you're about to hit submit on UCAS. And I thought, Tobi, do you really want to be a child's doctor? Like, you think you
Really,
can handle
yeah.
it? And I was like, actually, hold on a second.
Yeah.
And I ran, got prospectus, and started flipping. And I saw this title, advertising and marketing communication. I said, yeah, that's what I'm
the
going to do. And I
one,
quickly changed my form in
Wow.
that moment. And then I hit send.
But you know
Yeah.
what you said about how your how one part of your your educational journey shaped how you were able to be analytical as an investment banker, or it's very true. Whatever it is that you study in the beginning, you're going to take
It's
certain
so
things away from
key.
it
Yeah.
to be able that will apply to your career later on in life.
Yes. And another thing you said that really made me feel like I'm in the right direction in life as well in my career is the need for operational entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
I've been talking about this for a while. I didn't know that was what I was trying to say in terms of like succinct articulation, which is also why you went back to business school to be able to like succinctly present your analysis. So yeah, thank you for that. Okay, guys, we've like dug into like our careers and his journey. Very exciting, very motivating, very inspiring, actually. What we're going to do now is kind of dig into Frank's core business at the moment, tech. It excites me, it fascinates me, and it scares me a little bit, I'll be honest. I feel like I want to understand better what small and medium businesses, why do we need tech in the first place? What is tech? Obviously, it's easy to feel like you know tech because you're always on your phone, or you can control your smart TV, you have a little speaker system, maybe you have Alexa, like you use tech in your day-to-day. But what is tech really? For a business owner, and how can we use these things better? I'm frankly going to learn a lot from this because it's one of the things that I find quite daunting in running my business. It really terrifies me. So over to you, experts Temi and Frank. Tell me, what are we supposed to do?
I say that I like to think that tech is anything that makes your life a little bit easier. Right? So tech is all around us.
Succinct, I like
a
that.
pen is tech, right? Because it stops you from writing with charcoal, and like a pen is tech. So tech is everywhere, and for me it is something that just makes your life easier. Now, of course, it has like grown and expanded over time with the advent of electricity and whatever that makes tech, a little bit more amplified now. But I also sometimes get daunted by tech when I think of people who are in tech. Like the people who are in the, because I like it, I'm interested. But, that's why I'm so interested to hear from Frank, because when you're actually in the tech space, tell us what tech means to you.
Yeah, no, it's such a great question. And tech, you're right, it's like all around us. We constantly engage with technology, whether we realize it or like appreciate it or not, whether it's like tablets or phones or whatever else. Tech to me is it's almost like a gateway to a better future, a better and more efficient future, right? And so as a business owner, as a founder myself, as we think about kind of innovation and using new tools or developing them ourselves, really we're like always trying to solve, I guess, like one of two. We're asking ourselves like two big questions. Like one is, everything comes back down to the user, right, and our customers. And so, what is like the specific pain point that they have that we're trying to solve with this innovation or by adding this feature, right, to whatever it is that we provide to them? That's number one. Then number two, which is kind of like related to that, I guess, is like how does that fit into the kind of broad vision that we have as a company? And then I said two, but I'll add on a third. Number three then is how can we work more efficiently or more productively or more collaboratively, right? And then the tech is like a tool to solve that. You know what I mean? Because I think, especially nowadays, there's so much that there's always been hype over something, right? Like a few years ago, the big thing was blockchain, and now it's AI, and specifically generative AI. And depending on what space you're in, it might be something to do with like clean tech and renewables. And it's not to say these tools aren't bad, but I think a lot of founders, business owners can end up wasting a whole lot of money being sweet talked by a salesperson.
Absolutely.
And
adding things that don't actually fundamentally add value to their business.
We will talk about that later, because it's one of the things we need to, because don't worry, this is a holistic view of tech, guys. We're not just trying to say use it, use it, use it. We actually want to discuss some of the the darker side.
No, seriously, you guys have made me feel a little better, because a lot of times I genuinely feel like my basic understanding of it excludes me from the table as a business owner, and I need you. Like it can be quite confusing, or people just keep presenting systems to you, and everyone's like, "Do you use tech in your business?" And I'm like, "Where you should use tech," and I'm like, "What tech?" Like,
how?
It's such a broad thing. You mentioned something. You said technology is in our day to day. I never even penned development as technology. I literally coined technology to just be digital. So I don't know if that's also a flaw in thinking, or maybe because of how people present it, I have now separated it completely to real life, and then there's tech.
Yeah.
It's then very interesting. Like, guys, tell me what to do. I'm laughing because I'm like, I'm here. I'm going to dump my problems with Temi and Frank today, like all my tech problems.
Well, so my take on everything is like everything should really come to, like, as leaders in particular, but generally as people, right? Like I'm a big fan of kind of first principle thinking of, like, again, like what am I trying to achieve here, right? And then just being laser focused on that. And of course, like as you're working towards finding that solution, there's like other things you'll think about, like cost benefit analysis and like trying to trade off the risks. Because, for you, for example, you have like many businesses, but if we focus on like the house and like the restaurant space for a second, there are all kinds of tools, right? And like all kinds of like incredible startups doing like really innovative things that could potentially save you a whole lot of time and money and create efficiency and like a better user experience. But I'm sure like one big question that might be on your mind is like, can I actually trust this, new startup and new provider? And is it actually gonna be helpful to my users? And what happens if it breaks down one day and all of a sudden now, my restaurant draws to a standstill?
It's not holistic enough. It doesn't solve my problem fully, and no one can tell me how to mix use.
Yeah, exactly. And so I think one of the things that we do a lot of is we call it in the tech world, it's this like idea of like an MVP, right? And so Normally we think about it when we're talking about new products, and MVP is a minimum viable product, right? Like what is like the smallest and most simple basic version of the product you're trying to build that will allow you to actually get real feedback from users, right? As opposed to the more traditional way of building things in the tech world, which is you go off and do like a whole lot of research and spend like weeks and weeks and months building something, expecting there to be this like big reveal, then everyone's suddenly happy,
buys
right?
into immediately.
And so I think a similar thing applies when it comes to onboarding and I guess like trialing technology within businesses too, where rather than necessarily having to have like an entire end-to-end solution that's like, purely technological. So, if you're a retailer, for example, having that, perfect solution that does everything from, taking the payments and, like taking the booking and like processing the payment and, adjusting the inventory or like accounting for the reduction in inventory and then like feeding into accounting and everything. Of course, there are tools like that. But I guess my point is, even if you can use, like a really good payment processor, right? Or like a card issuer, for example, which a lot of people are doing, then I'm sure you found like, when you started using POSs, that was like a big spike, right, in the value that you got as a business owner, because now you're not just limited to those who have cash, and you're reducing theft and everything else.
I see
right?
what you mean.
And so then you can kind of like
step by step.
Exactly, step by step. Start with the, everyone's already started with the POS, and then you tack on, maybe it's like the inventory side, and then maybe it's like another piece as well, as opposed to feeling the pressure of having
get it right,
get it perfectly, exactly, yeah. And
That's
that then I
very
think
helpful.
also can reduce the risk of trying some and trying out new technology or new services as well, right? Where you're not, you're not entirely transferring your entire end-to-end process into a new provider or tech service or whatever. But also too, you can gradually trial it out. Right, there's like so many things that we do and things that we use where we'll use it for like a certain portion, 5-10% of our customers, trial it, see if it works, and then if so, then we like fully on board and implement and take it from there.
Makes a lot of sense.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for that, Frank. This discussion is making me think a lot about disruptive tech, which is the new wave at the moment. So you had mentioned earlier, like, we shouldn't be focused on the hype of things. And I feel like there's this new AI hype that we're finding ourselves in, and it will be good for us to kind of dissect it, because I think a lot of people need it. It is quite useful, but how do we kind of filter out the noise and kind of focus on the important part? Just to give you guys a definition, disruptive tech is anything that fundamentally helps or changes the way a business operates. Keyword fundamental. Essential game changers. I'm sure a couple of you have been like exposed to the ChatGPT, and there's a new one the Chinese just brought out. DeepSeek, that's it. So I don't know. Why are you smiling?
I want to know who names these brands. I'm so intrigued by brand names all the time, but yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah, so it's quite exciting, and I wonder what both your takes are on this like disruptive tech and this new wave we are like coming into as business owners, individuals, and just like future founders.
So, do you remember a couple of weeks ago I was at the house and I was talking about how I use ChatGPT, and you were saying you don't really like using it because it it feels like and this is the thing. I have a rule that I live by when using ChatGPT, which I use quite often. It's good. It boosts productivity. It helps you streamline ideas, but it should never replace critical thinking.
Thank you for that.
Right? Yep. Or professional judgment. Because remember, you can use ChatGPT in your personal life and also in your professional life. For me, I always ask myself, it cannot replace critical thinking or professional judgment.
Thanks for that.
All it can do is enhance something that is already there.
It was for the article, and
yes, you said it was jarring, and I said no, that you could never use ChatGPT to write an article that is coming from a personal perspective.
Just for quick context, I had an article series with Marie Claire, and I was going through the motions of writing the article, and it was a bit, and someone had asked me, why don't you just use ChatGPT? And I was like, why would I do that for an article? So I was telling Temi that that interaction really made me kind of even take a step back from ChatGPT, and she was like re-advising me. Just
because
context.
for me, the utility of these things is more important than the things themselves. Like you can use ChatGPT for anything.
I like that.
Right? But you have to never outsource common sense. Like you can't outsource common sense to AI. You know, the other day my sister I think we just wanted to see what would happen. ChatGPT gave me a recipe for green curry. And obviously ChatGPT is going to pull from an article somewhere on the internet and everything. Now, to refine that in a better way, I'm just giving an example of how to use ChatGPT in a better way. You have to take into account your own critical thinking. You're from an African country. Do you want more pepper in it? Do you understand? Do we have the ingredients that ChatGPT is giving you readily available? You can't just take the recipe, print it, and follow it. You have to apply critical thinking to it. So that is how I approach the use of AI currently. And I know that I'm so far behind on how I can be using AI better. So that's why I'd love to hear from you.
No, but it's such a good point, right? And what you kind of touched on is this idea of prompt engineering. Does that ring a bell?
Kind I like of that. A little bit. Okay.
Yeah. So prompt engineering is this. It's essentially so. If you compare, as we grew up, right, for our generation, by the time we hit our teenage years, Google was a huge thing, right? And that meant that we grew up as kind of like digital Google natives, where we got very good at Google searching, right?
Very good at Google searching.
Especially when you compared our generation back then to our parents, right?
Absolutely.
Who would type all kinds of things into a Google search box and be surprised when the answer wasn't coming, right? And then believe whatever first thing came up on their search bar. And I think now we're kind of entering this phase where the better you are at kind of training or feeding information into that GPT chat, and the better you are at asking smart follow-up questions, the more you'll get a material edge over competition. Right? In the same way that if you were good at Googling 20 years ago, right? Like you had an edge over people who didn't know how to navigate the internet.
I was going to write it down, but my producer is going to catch that for sure. We'll watch it.
And many people watching it would also gain a lot of value from that.
Great advice.
Sorry, go on.
No, go on. No, just
So I was going to say that, that's the thing. There are people who are professional ChatGPT users now. You know, there are actually people who run business. Like you've seen ads on Instagram where people are like, we'll give you a list of prompts. And, you know, like this is how to prompt. And there is a how. There is a how to prompt ChatGPT to actually get the answer you want, which is what you're saying. And you need to keep refining it and refining it and refining it, because it is a learning tool. It is learning as you are prompting it.
Exactly. Machine learning.
It's machine learning. Exactly. So that's what I wanted to say. The prompt is very important as well.
Yeah. I think the other thing that's really exciting right now is within, so let's say ChatGPT, if you look at if you're logged in to GPT, on the left, you'll see something about apps, like my apps and things like that. And so for us, just to give you guys an example, like a business example, I guess, we have essentially internally trained our GPT. It's like we call it Lingawa GPT, but it's basically like an internal tool where we have loaded up our resources, our brand guidelines, like a lot of information about like what makes us us, so that what comes out is
tailored,
on brand, totally on brand.
It's on brand. Spirit fingers to that.
I love that.
You heard it here first. He said it. I didn't.
Yeah, but I think that is something that I think more business owners can do, more people can do as individuals, and will just save you time, because to your point, if you're a cook, for example, or you cook a lot, and there are certain things that you have a bias towards doing or not doing in all of your recipes, right? Like your husband's lactose intolerant, for example, then it's not very helpful, or rather it's inefficient if every single time you have to remind it, avoid lactose, we really like pepper, we're short on this, right? And so
I'm gonna come and meet you after this to teach me how to do this, because I have the ChatGPT, but I'm not utilizing the apps. You know what I mean? So that's and it does, because then you don't want to keep
makes
repeating.
a lot of sense.
And the crazy thing about the world today, and this is like just a small snippet into why people are so mind blown by this technology, is that only a decade ago you would have to be a PhD level data science engineer to be able to build the personalized things that we are now able to build through text, right? By writing instructions. And that is like that. It's called like natural language processing, right? Like this like big paradigm shift that guys like IBM and Google developed about a decade ago has entirely revolutionized like how we engage with computers, and then it's literally empowered everyone, right, to do things that we could never have done before.
So there's a lot of so when we think AI or when we think of the journey of tech, there's a lot of productivity, a lot of time saving, a lot of efficiency as would I say the value system tech is presenting to us.
Yeah, like the value add, yeah.
So would that be the core of why tech then?
That's not it. So that's a big part of it. You're right. Just like saving time, allowing us to, get out of work early or do more during the workday so we can spend time with our kids. I'm a father of 2, for example, and I don't know if you guys, and actually I know you guys can resonate with this, but as a parent, there's this like constant guilt that a lot of us have, right? For like not spending enough time with our
My
kids.
daughter is in hospital right now and I'm here.
Wow.
The guilt is guilting.
Yeah.
Yeah, we get it.
Right? I say this because I think the efficiency point is actually like a really big one. And those productivity gains can actually show up in adding a whole lot of value that just makes our lives holistically better.
Yeah.
Right. But that being said, there is more. So part of it is productivity, but another part is growth and innovation.
I like that.
Yeah. And so even just like staying on this GPT thing and like the actual like applications of this AI technology are like really broad and far reaching, but there's so much to unpack, like just when as we're talking about these like AI chatbots. One thing that I love to do sometimes is like, I'll think and have like very detailed particular thoughts about like any particular growth area for the business or marketing strategies or whatever. But I'll often just like run my thoughts through GPT and like see what I missed.
Absolutely,
You know what I
always do
mean?
this.
Right? And like, or what was one of the questions
Always,
I love.
that one is, yeah.
And you would have to already have a structured way of thinking already. Like you've covered the basis of your thought process. You know what you want to achieve. You know what you're trying to build. You have essentially already an outline, and you're just running it through to kind of see if there are any gray areas
Or any
gaps,
blind spots.
any gaps.
Yeah,
Exactly.
any gaps or blind spots.
Yeah.
That being said, one of the really daunting things, at least for me personally as a founder, is that like you kind of have to. It's almost like you wake up one day and then realize you have to be an expert on products and marketing and sales and tax
HR.
and accounting and HR and
That's
you know what I
the
mean?
hardest
Like
thing about
operations and everything.
entrepreneurship.
Yes.
And so I completely agree. Like some of like the massive moments of value that I've got is like when I actually do have a pretty good idea of like what I want,
What
right?
I want, yeah.
But sometimes like, I'm just learning. You
You're
know what I mean?
learning.
It's
Yeah,
like,
you are.
okay, like I'm thinking of launching a new marketing strategy. I'm trying to grow users by X%. What are some of the things I should be thinking about?
Yeah.
Right. But then from there, then like the follow-up questions.
Sometimes
continue,
it
right?
opens
And-
your world up.
But I
as
like
well,
what
isn't
I
it?
like what you just said when you said you're thinking about growing your business as opposed to tell me what to do
to
be a business owner. Like
yeah.
you know where you're going.
Thank you guys for a lot of what we've been talking about. But don't you find it interesting that before a business or a brand or an entrepreneur can go into artificial intelligence, they even need to first understand or appreciate the basics of tech? Because I was thinking about it, like a lot of startups, I advise, invest, or consult with a lot of startups or small businesses. And I realized that a lot of them want to infuse tech, but they've not done the basic tech. Or they want to learn how to use artificial intelligence, or they think, oh, want to incorporate this big system, but they haven't done their basics. What do I mean by that? For me, when you first start up a business, you need your basic productivity tools that everyone is going to use. So your emails, your drives where you share your documents, your productivity channels, your Google business. Where can people even find you? Do you have a website? Do you have a catalog? Like, what are those little things before you start trying to create a deck to go and raise millions of dollars? Like, have you done the
Fundamentals.
basics, the fundamentals? So I guess for me, I'm trying to pick both your brains. How does a business go from the internet of things into using the artificial intelligence of things?
Interesting. Okay, so a couple of things there. So one fantastic point about the need to have the basic setup, right? So you can't um, ever really think about all kinds of like really cool, innovative data analytics with AI if you're not collating the data. And that's one thing I
Point.
think like a lot of founders found out when they, a lot of companies even would hire really expensive data analysts who would come in the business, or really expensive AI analysts to come in the business and like do magic. And then the AI analyst comes in and it's like, but you have no data.
You have no data.
You're not tracking anything.
Oop.
And
a
so,
huge pet
and
peeve.
so,
That is not tracking anything.
and so you're absolutely right. Right, everything from bookings, payments, who your customers are, like
Literally.
collecting the data is actually quite important. Number one. Number two, that you mentioned IoT, Internet of Things, and that's like an entire different
World
discussion.
in its own, right?
Yeah. So and I guess like do people?
I love how I call it Internet of Things and you call it IoTs. You
No,
can
but
tell
same-
who is the
sorry.
tech person
not the
around
same.
here.
No, but it's good so that our listeners can also be like, what is IoT?
Yes.
But yes, they know. Yeah.
It's the Internet of Things.
Yeah, and it's like broad, right?
It
Like,
is quite
very.
broad.
There's a whole lot.
Extremely
there.
broad.
So it's everything from smartwatches and Fitbits, Apple Watches, etc., which can basically it's essentially anything that is like any tech device that essentially is able to receive and process data from the real world,
I
right?
like that.
And
Yes.
so obviously like wearables, also things like smart cameras,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
So like Ring cameras. Now
Yes,
there's a
yes,
whole host of CCTV cameras from
Yes,
China, which
Yes.
enable you to remotely follow what's going
Even-
on in your business, in your home, from your
Baby
mobile phone,
monitors
right?
has saved
Baby
me.
monitors.
Has made me very productive actually.
Yes.
My
Because
baby
you don't have to
monitors.
be
Yes.
in the
Yeah.
physically
room,
there
right?
all the
Absolutely.
time.
Yeah, exactly. But there's a lot of cool stuff going on. I mean, there's an incredible friend of mine, founder Janet Sawari, who has a company in South Africa, and what they basically do is they have AI technology that works with your CCTV cameras to basically how to put it, intelligently give you feedback on what the camera's seeing. Right. So, for example, if you have factory workers and you're wondering, like, why? If you have factory and you're
standing
wondering why
around.
aren't no, why has productivity down this week? It can tell you because your employees are having 30% more conversations around the water cooler as opposed to actually getting the work done.
I love that.
Oh my God.
I need that.
Game changer.
Right?
That
Yeah.
would be fantastic in Nigeria.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's interesting, because a lot of technology is linked, right? So you talked about an AI powered smart camera. So that is AI and IoT together.
Yes.
Working
Even
to
your
increase
wearables
productivity.
as well.
So that's the one I was going to go to, for example. And the thing about data is really important because that's another thing, and I guess a whole other topic that we need to touch on for small businesses, startups, entrepreneurs. Your business cannot grow or thrive if you don't collect data. You cannot learn how to adapt certain parts of your business. You can't learn how to improve. You can't learn what to leave behind if you don't have data. You can't even really understand your customers if you don't have data. So it's very important to continue to collect these. And that's why I like IoT because, for example, now look at my watch. It's collecting data on, say, my heart rate or how many steps I took or how active I am. And if I, don't meet my weight loss goals at the end of the month, I will analyze the data and be like, girl, you only walked 10,000 steps one day. So what did you expect was going to happen?
An angle to what you've just said as well is even the infusion of tech to managing yourself, to manage your business.
Yes.
A lot of founders or people in business don't even realize that the first person you need to analyze on a day-to-day is yourself.
Yes.
Because you're the one that has to think this vision, think of these ideas and kind of plan or foster execution. So the fact that we even need tech to kind of gather data for our productivity so that you can focus on other things. Isn't that also quite interesting? Because when your watch tells you everything you're doing, you realize I'm more tired. Am I sleeping enough? Am I waking up on time? Am I able to take my meetings? And everything is still kind of linked, isn't it?
And I also do love the idea of connecting solutions to tech, right? So for example, now these things have been coined like biotech and health tech and ed tech, and it's really just an
So I'm smiling because I woke up one day and they knew things.
It's like ed tech.
It was biology
And then,
and
Yeah.
it was technology.
And
then
no,
someone
that's
said
true.
biotech. And
Biotech.
I'm like, oh,
That's actually one of the
there's
first
education
ones. Yeah, and there's
technology
edtech.
and there's edtech.
Yeah.
So
and but these things really then can, like you said, start incorporating AI and IoT and cloud and stuff like that. But interestingly enough,
hospitech.
no, my
Hospitality tech.
Oh,
oh my god, hospitech.
Hospital.
It doesn't sound good, does it? But no,
I actually,
I like.
actually very soon it will
We
be
can
coined.
start something.
Hospitech. It feels like
No, I'm so glad you brought that up because that literally sits
yeah.
exactly where your latest, greatest venture currently sitting, which is
Yes.
ed tech.
And
I would love to ask, you want people to learn languages. You want children to learn languages and you want adults to learn languages. The value in that, very clear. Why did you think you needed to infuse tech? And why did you want to infuse tech in it?
Great question. I mean, so right from the get-go, right, coming from, if you think back to that whole story of transitioning eventually out of finance into the world of entrepreneurship, at that point, probably worth sharing that, given my background, there's this constant theme that kind of ran through my career. So take a step back. Around this time, I wanted to really think and make sure that the next step I had was doing something that I really loved doing and something that I was meant to do, like really keying into my purpose. And on reflection, what I realized is that I spent so much time in my career helping young people realize their full potential, right? Like that, whether it's like mentorship schemes and training programs, and some of which with KV, with SEO London in the UK. And that was like my real passion. And so, that saying that if you do what you love, you'll never work a day in your life, right? So I was like really trying to key into that. And ultimately realized, okay, fine. So if I want to do that at scale, then one, it will likely involve an element of education, but also the technology, right? And that is one of the beautiful things about technology, is that things can become scalable, right? Which is on the most fundamental level, we see it with e-commerce. Yeah. That like it's one thing to produce clothing yourself and to sell it yourself at a store with a shop and a storefront. But that's like really limiting the amount of people that you can reach to whoever comes to your street or whoever's within an X mile radius around you, right? But the second you're able to market online, distribute online, then suddenly what was formerly a very local product becomes hyper-global, right?
Yeah. Right.
And so that is kind of, I think, like the fundamental reason why we do technology. What we do has like a very, very strong core technology edge. It's because through tech, we know we can build something that reaches a whole lot of people and then changes a whole lot of lives.
Okay.
I love that.
Did we get that?
We did.
The reason.
We did,
so
and it makes sense.
Scalable.
Yeah.
Innovation and reach. Well, is scale the same as reach?
Not the same, but it has like reach. You can only reach at scale.
I like that.
When you're reaching more people.
I like that.
I do.
And you know why your definition and why I asked that question? Because the why is always very key. And even as me being a business owner, just tapping into your reasons alone, I can already see some of the areas in our business that we can already introduce tech into. So if I think about it, what do I want to scale? What do I want to innovate?
Absolutely.
And who do I want to reach?
No, that's it.
Do you see how we've just created?
No, it's a beautiful thing. And I think like fundamentally, kind of going back to the whole thing of, whatever we do with technology, whatever products we launch, whatever features we launch, it like has to be solving a real problem.
Yeah.
And so for me, for example, I, growing up in the UK as a Yoruba Nigerian, really struggled with learning Yoruba. Like I speak French. At one point, I even spoke Mandarin better than I spoke Yoruba. It's shameful. And one of the big problems I found was that every time I tried to learn, it was like at a like a community center in like Southeast London.
You just said this earlier.
And so it was like like a whole trek for me to physically get there. But even once I get there, it was like group classes, the teaching style wasn't exactly what I needed. And so I didn't really connect. And then but that wasn't just it, right? Then you go home and want to practice. and then you try to practice with your cousins or with like an uncle or aunt, and then they ridicule you for your accent.
Why do they always ridicule you?
that?
I believe that this
don't
is the reason why I haven't learned, is because I'm just like, leave the ridicule and just help me learn. Like,
Wow,
exactly.
I didn't even know that was a thing. But
it's
thanks
a
for sharing.
huge thing, and that was like the crazy thing about my French is like I'm I'm naturally so much more confident in trying with French than I used to be with Yoruba, simply because every time I could piece like a little sentence together, if my accent was okay, in the early days, I would get it, oh, wow, well done. Like, wow, you're really trying, this is awesome.
Oh, wow.
As opposed to with
But
our
with
languages,
Yoruba, it's like,
with the expectation. Yeah, exactly.
Show Yoruba yeah.
I'm sorry, I just had like
it's even worse. Like, what do you want to say?
I just had I have PTSD from this because my family members ridicule me every day that I cannot speak Yoruba, which I'm now admitting to you guys in public.
No, Lingawa's got you.
Please, no. See, I told you as soon as I saw, I was like, first of all, it appeals to me because I'm your target audience.
Yeah,
I need it and I will use it, and furthermore, like I was saying to Toby, that the mode of learning also matters to me and to my kids. Like, I don't learn. I would learn better, like, on your app than I would if I was trying to sit across from a Yoruba team. Even my kids, they got so disengaged because I brought it. Because I even said to my husband, why don't you converse with them, right? Immersion learning. Let them just have Yoruba around them all the time. But you see, as a native Yoruba speaker, it's hard when you go back and forth between English and Yoruba. It's not intuitive for you to just start speaking Yoruba to your kids. So I love that you speak Yoruba to
I
Tum
speak
Tum
Yoruba
all the time.
too.
I think Tum Tum can speak Yoruba more than I can.
She actually can't. Really?
Possibly.
Temi, no, have you?
She's one for context.
Now, you can't. I've never heard you say Yoruba.
I won't even try. I mean, I will understand you, but to say it, no, I'm not doing it.
So I speak fluent Yoruba, but I think that's also because we had no choice growing up. Like my mom, her English was actually more limited than her Yoruba, so there was no choice.
And
so
do you know what I love?
out
It's always
in
your
my
parents that
favor.
ridicule the most, and I'm like, but wait a minute, didn't you have the opportunity
To teach me.
What is going on?
You did this.
So, what's the age Lingawa starts a
from
person
5.
from
so
5 years
kids
old?
from 5 to 18, and then adults.
And how is the mode of learning? So I know we've talked about what you're trying to do, your mandate, get more dialect speakers.
Yeah, exactly.
out.
So get more African language speakers out. But like even beyond that, I think right now there's a cultural revolution going on, an African cultural revolution. We see it with Nollywood, we see it with Afrobeats, we see it with fashion, and now we're starting to see it with our languages too. Beauty as well, and with our languages too. Right? Because people, there was a time when I was growing up, it wasn't cool to be African.
Yes.
Right, like it wasn't cool to be Nigerian, at least like to most people, which is like a real shame, right? And obviously, like there were those of us who had parents. So one of the real benefits I had, I think, with my parents and my mom in particular, is like very, very big on culture and where you come from. And like, yes, you might be out here as an English person, as a Brit, but you're not Oyinbo. But like, and when you come home, like we live by like Nigerian culture and values and everything else, right? And that I think actually saved me in a lot of ways, because it meant that with all the meanderings that happened along my career, I always like knew who I was.
Your North Star,
right? And my North Star was quite clear. And so a big reason,
like if
you
failed, you were definitely going to go to the village or somewhere. Somewhere, so you always remember that.
Yeah, exactly. And so one of the things I think that gives me so much passion and excitement about what we're doing is the fact that there's so many kids across the world who are just like me, who are now connecting with their culture, right? And same for the young adults, right? Who kind of went through that whole thing of like not being fully English or American, or not feeling fully British or American, not feeling fully Yoruba or Igbo or Nigerian either. All of a sudden coming back to the fold and like realizing their full identity, you know what I mean? And then carrying that confidence with them into the workplace and into their dating life and into their social lives entirely. So
great. I love this. You had an idea. You want to push that idea. It's a great idea. It's an idea that has a lot of impact if we actually think about it. Now we need to get it global. So we have employed tech. Now, how have you can you talk us through how, if I come on Lingawa now, how am I going to experience it using the tech?
Yeah. And I wish like we could do like a product demo. Maybe like there's a way to infuse.
So we can infuse it on the screen.
We'll share something. But ultimately, I think our belief is today that if you want to become fluent in a language, it's actually really important that you speak and you practice and you have conversations, right? What we've done is we found this network of incredible tutors who we've trained. They've gone through like a very rigorous program. And we've built an entire kind of curriculum, right, that takes the learner all the way from beginning to advanced. But the beautiful thing I think about Lingawa is that, if you look at the founders, we have myself, we have Uche Azinge, our CTO, who's like a tech AI guru. And then we have my sister, who's been an educator for the last 15 years. And she's like a master's in education from Oxford University as well, just to give her the shout out and praise that I know my mum will appreciate.
Your mum must be smiling right now,
Right?
right?
Be like, oh, look at my kids. They're so
And
impressive.
but one of the great things about having such complementary co-founders, especially on the kind of like the learning science side, is that she really does bring the latest, most like forward-thinking learning science to our cultures and to our languages as well. And so we make sure that the lessons are very much student-centered, right? Like we train our tutors on empathy and actually like connecting with and sometimes joking with and building rapport with our learners as well. In addition to the actual lessons themselves, where we touch on obviously like vocab and grammar, but there's a whole lot of like culture imbibed with it as well. There's also the learning app. So it's an AI-driven learning app. Again, you'll see it's like fun, colorful games and flashcards and quizzes and leaderboards and streaks and everything else, basically to make sure that after your 1 to 2 hours a week of lessons, like in between it, you're really taking in and building upon the knowledge that you have, so that you're working step by step towards fluency.
Is it course driven?
Yes, yeah. So we're literally like level 1 to level 5.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and topics, very specific topics within each. There's one thing I'll mention though is that and this links directly into the conversation about tech and how, at least I believe, one should think about launching new tech products and features and stuff like that. And it's this idea of like identifying user problems. And so specifically, one of the challenges that we've discussed already is that to learn a language fluently, you have to practice and speak. As a dad, I saw that with my first kid, Tobi, my daughter, and now I'm seeing it with my son, Temi, and I'm sure you guys saw it too, where these kids are babbling all the time,
All
right?
the time.
Babbling all the time, talking all the time, trying, and like failing woefully in the early days, but do they care? No, they just keep on speaking, right? And that's how they develop fluency. But of course, if you think back to how we learned languages back in school, you'd kind of like go to your French class or go to your Spanish class. You'll have like your one hour a week. Then focus on vocab. Then focus on grammar. You do a whole lot of writing, maybe a whole lot of reading,
but not a lot of speaking.
Right?
That's true.
And so one of the things that we're thinking about is, so one, using technology in terms of, we have these things called virtual immersions. So we've built a platform where our learners can actually come together and like small groups, 3 to 5 people, and basically it's like practice and speak to each other, right? That's number one. But then two, this like really exciting thing that we're working on right now is like internally we call it Lingawa AI. And it's basically an AI tutor that you can basically video call and have a Yoruba or Igbo lesson, or like and soon Swahili, Zulu, etc. lesson right from your phone.
Oh.
Right. And we're in the early stages of kind of like working through it. Some of the early testing has been really, really positive internally. But yeah, there's
it's revolutionary.
It
because I have checked quite a few like language apps. Even
Duolingo.
My partner Datari
Okay.
taught himself French fully. He actually became like conversational, like just through Duolingo. Yeah, but I don't think any of them have this next level.
Yeah,
and also the African language element of it.
And that's it.
That's
so there are a couple of guys who have similar-ish things for French and German and Japanese or whatever. But in terms of like our languages, absolutely not.
That's why this
no
appeals. So this brings me to a question that I've always wanted to ask my friends in tech. I have an idea that I want to launch, right? And it requires the use of tech, but I'm always so daunted or even afraid to launch because I'm like, I don't know anything about AI. I know how to use what I know how to use, but I don't really know how to create an MVP because I feel as though I don't have enough knowledge in tech. But then you mentioned something really, really important. You have partners.
Yeah.
Right? So you could be the business mind, your sister's the education mind, your partner is the actual guy with the tech mind.
Exactly,
And I do find that that's why a lot of tech companies have co-founders, because one person could have the vision and the business, and then the other person is like, yeah, I'm the developer. Like, I don't even really want to be in the interviews. I just want to be
I don't
there,
even want to know
like
what's going
coding
on.
in a dark room. Like, I don't. And I think that that's also another thing that is important for us to touch on for our listeners who are aspiring to be entrepreneurs and have like a tech-based idea, but are just afraid by the idea that I have to know about
everything.
tech.
Yeah.
You can be the solution provider. You can be the one who knows what needs to be solved. You can have the great idea and then find people and partners who can, support you.
Yeah.
In
exactly.
the specific, yeah. So
couldn't
that,
agree
and
more.
I really like that you gave that specific example. Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that a thing? Actually, I notice a lot of tech-based businesses. I believe in doing everything in partnership because of how daunting business is. I'm big on it. But is that a thing for tech companies, like having partners?
In terms of like external partners now, right? As opposed
Yeah,
to
like
co-founders.
Oh, co-founder. Yeah. 100%.
Almost exclusively, right?
Why
100%.
is
Because we don't know
that
everything.
okay.
You know what I mean? And so so I'm very close to other founders, some who are solo founders, some who have co-founders, and the kind of like mental load and the stress of having to do absolutely everything. So for example, like last year, there was a period where, of course, like we're launching new products, we're growing and expanding the team, and we're fundraising. And in that season in particular, I just had to focus on fundraising, right? Because like we needed the money to build out the team and realize a vision. And I couldn't have done that if I didn't have strong
partners.
co-founders. Yeah.
Okay, this brings me to the downsides of technology.
Yes.
I'm a bit dramatic, so I'm going to let you guys know. I always, always, always get terrified at the potential damage tech can do. And because of how my mind works, I think deeply about everything. I genuinely think sometimes, like, if we're not careful, AI is going to be what can potentially start the next war. Or like cause a lot of issues. I always just think, it's technology. What if someone hacks into another country's
military system
and does something like crazy with it? Or even you as a business, there's so much fake information out there. There's so much doctored, like real life things that are actually doctored. Like even as a business, like fake receipts, fake invoices, cybersecurity
very
issues.
easy to do now.
True.
What are the downsides from someone whose business is heavily learned, or no, not learned, heavily linked to tech? Is that the right word? Yeah. How are you handling the downsides? And Temi, this is for you as well. How do you handle the downsides of tech in your businesses? Sorry.
Yeah, so it's a great question. I think there's so much to think about. So one, our CTO is essentially like, obviously he's like driving the tech product development and like the coding, and we have like 3 other developers who work with him and everything else, and there's a lot that he does in terms of managing the team and building out what we build. But one of the things he thinks a lot about is things like data security, cybersecurity, breaches. There's also the ethics of AI as well, right? I'm sure you guys have heard stories about certain. So I mentioned the cameras earlier, right? And so whether it's cameras and kind of like checks done by the police using AI tools, which if not careful can very easily be intrusive. One, but then even to the bias, right?
Yes. Yes, absolutely.
Because it's kind of it's like data in and then assumptions out, right? And sometimes those assumptions are very like stereotypical assumptions,
like
right?
that,
and
data in,
profiling.
assumptions out.
And so then, similarly, when it comes to you mentioned, I think earlier we were talking about CVs, right? Like applicants,
yes.
which I'd love you to share more about.
What's the CVs?
So 2 things for me. I'm going to use 2 examples about the downsides of AI, right? As this particular aspect of technology we're talking about. So I was saying I was hiring, and I received a lot of CVs. And there was a thread running through all of them that was exactly the same. And the reason for that is that the applicant had probably just put into ChatGPT, please write a cover letter for this job. Now that's one. Number 2.
And they probably all did the same thing.
Absolutely, because they just took the job description, fed it in, and right?
Prompt engineering.
Poor prompt engineering.
Very poor.
Very poor. Like
poor
I immediately, obviously you're not,
Yeah.
So the second one, which is an interesting one, and I know some businesses have this as well. So competition. So AI can become competition for certain industries. So, for example, in my company, we design, we create logos, we create websites, we create product design, packaging design, which you can now do at the click of a finger with AI, right?
Ooh.
Remember what I said in the beginning about critical thinking. So I, like, when I started my business 10 years ago, one of the first things I used to tell anybody that I hired is that I want to have a team of people who think critically about the brand. When we do all these questionnaires and strategy sessions and brainstorming sessions with our clients, is because we want to understand what drives their business growth. We cannot do a one size fits all approach. We cannot generalize. We have to actually spend the time learning our customer. There are websites now that create logos immediately.
Yeah.
When AI first, when the advent of AI became, now AI is integrated into Canva.
Yep.
Right. So now my team, they start to panic. Oh, why is anybody going to pay for us to do a deck now? Why is anybody going to pay for us to do a logo? It's because, what I believe is our USP, or what I've tried to promote as our USP, is that we think critically about our clients. AI cannot yet do that because AI is not human, so there's a certain human element. Like, you're having a conversation with your client and she's talking about her motivations and she remembers a memory that she forgot, and then you think, okay, this would be nice to infuse into her brand identity. It would give it a certain personalization, or it would, feed into her brand strategy. It's very hard for AI to do that. So for me, the downsides, which could be affecting a lot of small businesses, is competition, or even just taking away the human elements. Obviously this is happening all over the globe. People are losing jobs now because there's just AI replacing them. But that's one of the downsides, I think. But you should also remember that eventually, like I said, the human element will still, play a part. But that could be one of the downsides now.
Could be a massive downside. I think it's important for us as business leaders to be aware of it.
Absolutely.
And to position ourselves such that we are continually providing value. You're right, through like critical thinking, but also like we're using these as tools to give us an edge as well.
So we've had AI training in the agency simply because it's like, okay, you're afraid of something, but you have to understand it in order to tackle it.
Yeah, exactly.
So teaching people how to use it to support, because okay, you don't want AI creating logos for our competition, but you can use AI to build out the strategy behind the logo if you prompt it thoughtfully.
This. We should probably, in hearing all of us speak, we should probably also do a company list of brands who actually do AI like teachings for businesses, because it would be good if there's some that are available. I would love to know them. And just how to use tech and how to use artificial intelligence for small to medium enterprises. I wonder if somebody has that in this side of the world that can sort of help us. Because
Google has some really good
another
AI
thing that worries me as well is the level of plagiarism that is out there at the moment through tech. It's quite off-putting, and it's killing a lot of originality, and originality is what builds a brand. That is the USP. It's the originality. But we'll definitely find some of those and see how to incorporate it.
Yeah, I said the only other thing I'd add, by the way, I think like the creative element, originality, everything else is like insanely important. But the other thing that we can never forget is like the importance of genuine human connection.
Yes, I agree.
And relationship building.
Yep,
I agree.
Right, and like that can often serve as like this like crazy moat, like protecting us right, against like these like outward threats that come in.
And in saying that, I'm going to, before we ask you a final question, there's something I want to say. McDonald's, see all those machines they're putting. It's stressing me out.
It's everywhere now. It's it's like it's.
But one thing,
KFC.
No matter what, there's always somebody to hand you that food.
Yeah.
So it buttresses the use of artificial intelligence, but realizing human connection and critical thinking is still important.
Another thing I want to say, and it's just by the way, I guess it's different in different societies. In America, I went to a restaurant where I did not interact with a human being.
I would not like that.
I didn't.
I
didn't like it. I did not interact with a human being.
No. Talk to me,
My food
please.
slid down a chute. Like, they built the salad. You do beep, 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 beep. It goes to the back. They build the salad, and then it just slides down to you, and then
But isn't that perfect? Sorry, I'm like
No.
But my husband was like, I love it.
Yeah, exactly.
I
It's
love
like
it.
if I want, sometimes I want to talk to people, meet
No, I don't
people.
want to talk to you, but let me
I'm
see
a,
you now.
Yeah, but I don't want to
no
talk to you, but
humans, Frank. You walk in, it's just there's no.
So
you
who
can't
made
see-
my food?
I mean, the kitchen is
The
at the back.
machine.
But do you know the person who made your food?
No,
Even if you can
but
see them,
I know, but when
you
I
have
see
no
the
idea
person,
what the
I feel
hygiene
like,
is like.
oh, somebody made my food. Right now, I feel like they grew it in the bag. Something injected something,
Like
and
a
the food
robot,
just came out.
imagine claw hands just like picking up the
Yeah.
tomatoes and the. But again,
Anyway,
again, it is where we're heading.
It
as a society
is,
because it's more
gosh.
convenient. So
yeah.
So Frank, finally,
Mhm.
what advice would you have for SMEs when it comes to picking the right tech to
Okay.
help them?
Oh, good question. Number one, I would say, and you touched on it earlier, but it's like don't bury your head in the sand, right? There's really good, really grounded reasons why we should be concerned about this technology and the impact it will have on us and on our kids and their careers. But just like with any wave of innovation, you can think back, hundreds of years ago, when they said, like in Europe, for example, where like the wealthy elite were the ones who had land, right? They had like a whole lot of land, and then all of a sudden, industrial revolution came, and then it was no longer profitable to really have land. It was far better to have like factories where you're able to produce things effectively and efficiently. Like those are the people who made money all of a sudden. Like those were the new elite, and it's kind of a similar thing here where if we ignore the shifts that are going on around us, we will essentially miss out on a really golden opportunity to get ahead as business leaders, especially when it also comes to our kids as well, and like raising them to be tech savvy as well. Right, that's the first thing I would say.
Yeah.
Right, don't bury your head in the sand.
Absolutely.
Second thing I would say is go back to first principles. Right, so. What are your goals? What are you actually trying to achieve? And then working backwards from there in terms of, if, for example, for my business, the real issue right now is, to pick an example, is a production issue, right? Like we have so much demand coming in, but like we can't keep up with the demand. Then that's where you should be focused, right? How can I optimize productivity when it comes to
Focus on the
right,
problem areas.
exactly, focus
yeah.
specifically on the problem area. And then what I would say, like, the ones who like identified what the problem is like be open-minded when it comes to learning.
Yeah.
Right. So I think Temi, you made a really good point earlier of like the importance of having, or the benefit of having like strong partners or co-founders and everything else. But that being said, I would actually say that, especially as like a CEO or generally as a leader, that there's real value that comes from actually just like reading stuff.
I
And like
feel like we never stop learning. Is it
No,
like
we
as a
Yeah,
founder,
exactly.
you're always trying to stay ahead, stay on trend, stay in your particular industry and sector? Yeah, I think it's very important.
Yeah, exactly. So like, don't be afraid to really dig deep and just like learn and grow and have conversations, and don't be worried about looking stupid, especially if it's not your area of expertise, right? Like,
Yeah.
it's okay to ask the dumb. I love
Yeah.
asking stupid questions, by the way.
Yeah.
That's like my
It
favorite thing
excites
to do.
me.
It's
Me
how-
too.
Yes, you
I'm
know,
not
like-
shy. I will ask.
We have to
yeah,
get
it
into the
makes
habit,
sense.
honestly,
Yeah.
because if you don't ask, you won't get the answer. And it's like, who are you? Who is suffering in this scenario?
Yeah.
Exactly,
Yeah.
right. So then now you've done all that, and you've kind of like, you've identified your problem, you've done a bit of research into understanding what the solutions out there are, what the approaches could be, which AI obviously can be very, very useful in kind of figuring out. And then you eventually get to the point where now you're trying to choose between different providers, right?
Yeah.
And I think one of the great things there is, one, tech, internet, there's a lot of reviews out there. So things like
Yeah.
Trustpilot, Google reviews, and then also talking to friends, right? And talking to other people. I think one of the things personally that's been really helpful to me along my journey, everything from fundraising to hiring and growth and marketing, is having a community of other people who are just passionately doing it, right? Just like passionately building things to make people's lives better.
Okay.
And then through there, then you get the benefit of recommendations and everything else. So that's what I would say.
Okay. Hi everyone. Have you enjoyed this topic? I really, really, really am enjoying myself. We're now at favorite section of the top podcast, question and answer segment. Temi, you ready?
Ready.
Have you seen what your people are asking you this week?
I can see. I'm asking myself the same things.
Frank, so this section, this segment of the podcast, we have people write to us and
Great.
ask us questions around their businesses.
Nice.
Yes. And we have quite a lot of questions, but we're going to narrow it down to 2.
Cool.
Good ones, quick ones. Temi, do you want to take which one do you want to ask AJ?
Okay, I'm asking for myself. Is it better to invest in tech now, or is it better to wait until it's mainstream and affordable?
My favorite answer, it depends, right? Like it entirely depends on what it is that we're talking about. I think one thing is you have to do what is right for you and for your business specifically. If it is not affordable for you, then it's a very simple pass. Similarly, if it is a big investment, it could make sense, but you have to take a view on the impact that investment will have into the kind of long-term cash flows and revenue for your business, right? Yeah, I think there's some things that, will be like a really low cost or free subscription, fantastic, take it on, right? But other things where it's a material investment, right? Like you'll be bringing people into your team, paying consultants, onboarding and setup fees and everything else. And so things like that will and should take the time and analysis for you to believe it's worth the risk.
And that really just goes back to what you were saying about learning and knowing, because I think before you can even know what the return on that investment would be, you'd have to understand the value that it's going to bring over time. You can't invest in something just because other people are doing
it.
It's so smart. And you're right, part of it's like learning about the technology. But then the other part of it is like really taking the time to learn about your customers. And, like if, for example, you want to, I don't know, like invest in an entirely new, let's say, CRM or onboarding system or something, then like you have to believe that there is a current, the only reason why you do that is because you believe that the current systems, processes that you currently have are cracking, right, or will crack, given the increased uptake or demand that you're having. Or if you're launching, again, like a product to solve a particular customer problem, then it better be the biggest of their list of problems with your business, because if it's like number 3 or 4, then why aren't you investing in and paying more attention to number 1 and 2?
Absolutely.
That makes so much sense. And even just to touch on the keywords used in this question, mainstream, affordable, I think tech is already mainstream. And there are affordable ones. So just be mindful of the mindset check there as well.
Yeah, exactly. I think, it's spot on. I think with, especially in our market here in Nigeria, one should be very wary sometimes of, especially when it comes to like CapEx or like investing in, machinery and things that physically need maintenance. Because there's so many things which sound great initially. You then spend all the money to bring it in, then realize that we don't have the technicians in market, and then the operating costs of your business.
I found the hard way.
Right?
Yes.
Like really spike up when
you buy the best equipment and there's nobody on ground in the country to maintain it.
Yeah. And that's like that research that one has to do before making that investment.
Okay, quick one. Is cloud storage really safe? What if my data gets hacked?
Is it really safe? The answer, I believe, is twofold. So one, there are essentially kind of 2 things that one should, I think, be concerned about, and you should very much segment the 2, right? So one part of it is, can people breach through Google or Amazon Web Services or whoever's kind of like tech in like cybersecurity infrastructure and hack into your data, right? So can they either online or physically, can they break into the data centers and extract your data? That one, I think, it's probably fair to say that the Googles and Amazons and the data center, the main ones of this world, the rack centers of this world, probably have better security and infrastructure than you do as a founder, right? So that side I wouldn't worry about. The side that you should be really concerned about is people hacking into your account, right? And that's like a whole different thing. And so for that, the one biggest piece of advice I would have for everyone, please, please, please use 2-factor authentication.
Okay.
2-factor authentication, especially for your if you're using Google Workspace or Zoho, like the core things in your business, you absolutely have 2-factor authentication, and you should require that everyone in your team has two-factor
Factor
authentication too.
authentication.
What is two? And I'm sure some of you are wondering, what is two-factor factor authentication? It's essentially, one single-factor authentication is just your password, right? But obviously, passwords can get hacked for a number of different reasons, especially now in the age of AI and people like intelligently guessing what your password could be.
Wow. So people can use AI to do those guesswork. That
Not
makes
me
sense.
going to my staff email account and being like,
and you can, if you use Google Workspace by any chance, then you can actually
Yeah.
set it within as an admin setting to make sure
Zoho
everyone
as
uses it.
well.
Zoho
You
is
can just-
exactly, So one factor is your password. The second factor is so there are these like authentication tools where it'll like Authy and Duo, and there's a few that Google Authenticator as well, and it basically gives you like a 6-digit code that you then need to like type in when you're getting into your account. And that's another one. Another version of two-factor authentication is they'll call or text you a code, right? So our banks use this all the time, for example, right?
Yes.
So yeah, that is my parting word, please, from a data security perspective.
Thank you. I needed that. I'm actually going to make sure that's our next week task.
good. It was
to
already-
actually ensure everybody has
It was already
two-factor.
checked.
Yes, I like
I
that.
have to.
Wow.
Oh, we've come to the end
What
of
an
another
insightful
episode.
conversation.
I really enjoyed it. I learned so much. I really enjoyed hearing, the justification for certain things and the reason behind other things, and really enjoyed hearing your story and your history and your background. That was
And for
was
me as
fun.
well, I learned so much and realized that we actually have not
Scratched
unpacked
the surface.
of
Yeah.
tech.
Yeah.
Which is exciting,
Yeah.
but still daunting.
Yeah.
So we might need AJ back here
Honestly.
to break down all the different facets of this thing.
Honestly.
No, but this has been fun. One of the things I always dreamt of with our pod was to have people that also teach us. Like I feel like I've learned so much today.
Definitely.
In terms of practical things I can also apply or just put in context in my business.
Oh, thank you.
So
And listen, I
thank
learn all the time from you guys, especially when it comes to anything marketing related. Big fan. So thank you for all that you do.
And good luck with Lingawa.
Thank you.
I'm going to sign on today.
Oh, I love that.
And Nyla, I think.
Yes.
And maybe
And do you
Zora.
want to tell the viewers like how to sign up to Lingawa as well?
Yeah, absolutely. Nice and simple. Go to lingawa.com, click, sign up. We have a super short form that basically enables our AI matching algorithm to throw in some more buzzwords to basically pair you with the perfect tutor for you. And then the journey begins.
Awesome. Do you guys have an app as well?
So entirely web app based for now, launching in the iOS and Android stores later this year.
Amazing.
Fantastic.
You heard it here first.
Well,
so thanks for hanging with us
yes,
today.
thank you. And if you enjoyed it, please send your questions, send your comments, share with a friend or 10, like I like to say,
20.
and, your whole WhatsApp group. And we are going to be right back with you next week. And don't forget to like, share, subscribe.
Bye for now.
See you later. Bye.